Beneath the streets of New York, behind layers of steel and concrete, there is a vault filled with gold. But this gold tells a larger story. Much of it is not American gold. It belongs to governments, central banks, and international institutions that chose to keep their reserves on American soil. During the 20th century, as wars reshaped the world, gold moved toward one of the few places that still looked safe. And from that movement, a new financial order began to form. First, the dollar was tied to gold. Then, the world was tied to the dollar. And in 1971, the United States closed the gold window. Money did not disappear, but its anchor did. For most of history, gold was not just a metal. It was trust you could hold in your hand. A government could print a promise. A king could sign a decree. A bank could issue paper. But gold was different. It was rare, physical, and difficult to create out of nothing. That is why so many monetary systems were built around it. Paper money was not meant to stand alone. It was supposed to point to something behind it. A claim, a promise. Somewhere in a vault, there was metal. And as long as people believed that promise, paper could move like money. At the beginning of the 20th century, Europe still sat near the center of global finance. London, Paris, and Berlin were more than cities. They were financial engines. Then came war. The First World War forced governments to spend at a scale the old system was never designed to handle. Weapons, ships, food, steel, soldiers, everything had to be paid for. And increasingly, the supplies came from across the Atlantic. Gold began to move west. Some of it moved as payment. Some of it moved for safety. Then the Second World War pushed the same pattern even further. Europe was damaged. America was distant from the ruins, protected by oceans, and powered by industry. By 1945, the map of financial power had changed. Gold had crossed the ocean, and the center of gravity had moved with it. After the Second World War, the United States was no longer just a rising power. It had become the safest balance sheet in the world. Its factories were still standing. Its cities were not in ruins. Its economy had expanded, while much of Europe was rebuilding. And inside American vaults, the gold kept accumulating. By the late 1940s, the United States held about 3/4 of the world's official gold reserves. That fact changed everything. Because the country holding the gold could now help write the rules. America did not just become powerful because it had armies, factories, and ships. It became powerful because the world trusted its vaults. And from that trust, the next monetary system was born. In July 1944, while the war was still being fought, delegates from 44 nations met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. They were not just planning the end of a war. They were designing the rules for the financial world that would come after it. The system they created was built around a simple structure. The dollar would be linked to gold, and other major currencies would be linked to the dollar. The official price was $35 for 1 ounce of gold. This made the dollar more than an American currency. It became the bridge between national money and gold. Gold anchored the dollar. The dollar anchored the world. But the system had a weakness. To become the world's money, dollars had to leave America. They moved through trade. They moved through reconstruction. They moved through military spending, investment, and global banking. More dollars meant more global activity. But every dollar held by a foreign government still carried the same promise. It could be exchanged for American gold. That promise worked when the number of dollars was limited. But by the 1960s, dollars outside the United States had grown far faster than the gold behind them. The world needed more dollars. America did not have enough gold to match the growing claims against it. And slowly, the foundation of the system began to crack. Some countries began to test the promise. France, under President Charles de Gaulle, openly questioned why the world should depend so heavily on the dollar. If dollars were truly as good as gold, then France wanted the gold. So it began converting dollar reserves into metal. Other countries also became more cautious. The problem was no longer theoretical. Every time dollars came back to America, gold could leave. And as the 1960s continued, the pressure on U.S. gold reserves grew. The system was still standing, but the trust behind it was getting thinner. By 1971, the choice could no longer be avoided. The United States could keep exchanging dollars for gold and watch its reserves fall further. Or it could stop the exchange and break the rule that held the system together. On August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon appeared on television. He announced that the United States would suspend the dollar's convertibility into gold. He called it temporary. But the gold window never reopened. In that moment, the dollar was no longer anchored to gold. And because the world was anchored to the dollar, the entire global money system changed with it. After 1971, gold no longer stood at the center of the system. Money did not become meaningless. It became different. The value of modern money now depended less on metal in a vault and more on trust in governments, central banks, legal systems, and economic stability. This is the world of fiat money. A dollar is not a claim on gold anymore. It is a claim on confidence. Confidence that people will accept it. Confidence that institutions will defend it. Confidence that tomorrow it will still buy something real. The old system was built on metal. The new system was built on belief, policy, and power. In 1971, the world did not lose its money. It lost its anchor. For centuries, gold had stood behind the promise. After Nixon closed the gold window, the promise had to stand alone. No metal, no fixed link to gold, no final object behind the paper, only trust. And that is the system we still live in today. A world where money moves faster than gold ever could, where debt can expand beyond borders, and where the value of a dollar depends on something far more fragile than metal. The belief that tomorrow everyone else will still believe in it.